So many cars, we creepin'. Bend that corner, his bitch ass nigga got hit trying to bend nigga throw in. Pink got cracking his head and his bitch ass leak. Got so many cars and so many blocks. Got so many switches and so many glocks. Got so many ops and so many chops. Ain't arguing niggas, they cool with the cop on they one with
A few moments later.
DC police and the U.S. attorney say one Northwest neighborhood is safer tonight after a major bust.
Yeah, it's all thanks to the takedown of the so-called Kennedy Street crew. WUSA 9 investigative reporter Nathan Baca explains.
This newly unsealed federal indictment describes a sophisticated drug and gun crew. Now they face serious federal charges alleging conspiracy. 12 members of the so-called Kennedy Street crew were arrested by MPD in the past 2 days. The U.S. attorney says over 400 grams of fentanyl were seized, and they describe that as the core of their criminal operation. 100 kilograms of cannabis were seized too. 42 firearms seized, 8 of those suspected to be machine guns, worth several $100,000 total. The U.S. attorney says the Kennedy Street crew was located between 100 and 1200 Kennedy Street Northwest. Also known as ADY, this crew allegedly ran open-air drug markets. The indictment says they smuggled much of their fentanyl from the California Bay Area. DC's interim police chief points out the unique nature of getting IRS investigators involved in this case.
If an IRS criminal investigator is part of this case, you know you really tripped up, because they're not really looking at nickel and dime investigations. They're here because the Kennedy Street crew is not some corner crew.
I asked whether the IRS's involvement means that the Kennedy Street crew is accused of money laundering through established businesses. Now, the U.S. attorney would not reveal that, citing several more upcoming arrests. Nathan Baca, WUSA 9.
What's good with y'all, Mo? Welcome back to Paperwork TV. Last week, everyone got the news about Migo Lee pleading guilty in the KDY RICO case. Because of this, I wanted to touch up on this case a little. We are mainly going to be looking at Migo Lee and his brother's involvement, which is why I chose the title for this video, Meet the Browns. Before we get to it, please go and smash that like and subscribe button for me, Mo. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. In the shadows of the nation's capital, a tale of two brothers unfolds, coming from a city that is known all around the world for its involvement with drug trafficking. Meet Kali Ahmed Brown, known by his alias Migo Lee, and his younger brother, Keon Michael Brown. Both men, barely into their 20s, found themselves entangled within the violent Kennedy Street crew, a notorious drug trafficking organization operating out of Northwest Washington, D.C. Migo Lee, the elder of the two, rose to become the face of the Kennedy Street crew, not only from getting a name in the streets from putting in work, but also because of his name buzzing throughout the city because of his music. He admitted to orchestrating the distribution of substantial amounts of marijuana, fentanyl, and oxycodone, weaponizing his influence and firepower to further the crew's operations. His reckless disregard for public safety resulted in a shooting on November 18, 2022, just outside Jackson Reed High School.
And a brazen shooting sending a D.C. high school into lockdown, and that's where we are going to start tonight. Police are still looking for that shooter in D.C. Thank you for being here with us. I'm Lorenzo Hall.
I'm Leslie Foster, and the kids who heard this tell us they were terrified. These are shots that were fired on Chesapeake Street Northwest. That is right between Jackson Reed High School and Fort Reno Park. Our John Henry just got an update from police in the last 20 minutes. John, walk us through what you know.
Yeah, well, this just happened 2 hours ago, and you can see it was right in front of Jackson Reed High School. You can see the evidence markers right there where the police are. And as you were saying, this happened right next to three schools, rather. Alice Deal is just on the other side of the street right there. And then, about walking distance, not too far from that, is Murch Elementary. Now, here's what it was like not long ago after someone fired shots here near the corner of Chesapeake and 40th. A school SRO heard those shots. One student told us inside it was at least 9, and that they heard them from inside their classroom. Police told us a short time later they know at least one person was firing a gun. They know those shots damaged nearby property, but luckily hit no one. DCPS administrators placed the school into temporary lockdown for about 50 minutes. That led to some tense times for parents waiting to see their loved ones outside.
The text I got was, "Mommy, the kids are screaming. They said it's a shooting." And I had to tell him to stay away from the windows and the doors and to make sure he paid attention, and that I'm on my way. And then he started to worry about me, like, "Mommy, don't come. It may not be safe."
And we came here very quickly, arrived here very quickly, and we quickly learned that there was at least one individual who was firing a gun. We don't really have a description on the individual at this time, but we had reports. What we want the community to be aware of is we had reports that this person that fired gunshots got into a vehicle occupied by multiple individuals.
And MPD added that that individual got into a black Infiniti sedan, which once again, other people were inside of. It had Virginia plates that read TXT 6922. Now, another thing, this is the second day in a row that this has actually happened in DC. You may remember yesterday, the KIPP school in Southeast DC had to be placed on lockdown as well after a teenager was shot on a nearby Metro bus. The very latest from Upper Northwest, John Henry, WUSA 9.
His younger brother, Keon, was no less involved. He, too, pleaded guilty to the distribution of large quantities of marijuana and oxycodone, with a firearm charge added to his growing list of offenses. Their fate now lies in the hands of U.S. District Judge Beryl A. Howell, with sentencing scheduled for December 12, 2024. The brothers' guilty pleas are the latest triumph for law enforcement officials who have tirelessly pursued the dismantling of the Kennedy Street Crew. For years, the Kennedy Street Crew held sway over an 11-block stretch of Kennedy Street, along with surrounding streets. The group armed itself to facilitate its drug trade and defend its territory against rival crews. The consequences were dire. Between June 2019 and June 2023, the crew's territory saw 5 homicides, resulting in 7 deaths and 6 wounded individuals. Migo Lee played a key role in the crew's operations, smuggling bulk quantities of marijuana from the West Coast to the DMV area. This allowed the crew to sell at significant profits, fueling its operations and further entrenching its presence in the community. Both Browns maintained stash houses of the crew's controlled substances and weaponry, contributing to the cycle of violence and addiction plaguing their city. Reflecting on the case, U.S. Attorney Matthew M. Graves declared, "With these guilty pleas, every defendant charged in connection with this investigation has now pled guilty to charges that will ensure that they will be removed from and no longer driving violence in our community." Hopefully Migo Lee and his little brother get out of that jam, Mo. We need new music from Bra and YNV Greedy out here on the streets. I'm going to end this joint by saying free Migo Lee. Well, I'm not a rapper, so let me stop rapping y'all up, Mo. Be sure to go and comment what y'all want me to cover next. Be safe out there, y'all, and most importantly, stay dangerous, Mo.